The vet report sat unopened on Donna Cooper's kitchen table for 3 days. She already knew what it would say about Ben, her border collie. No signs of being sick, no poison in his body. No reason why he had suddenly jumped from the stone wall of a Scottish bridge on what should have been a normal Tuesday afternoon walk in March 2005. What the report couldn't tell her was why Ben had become the latest victim of what locals called Scotland's most cursed bridge. It couldn't explain why, for over 50 years, dogs had been jumping to their deaths from the exact same spot on Overtoun Bridge, always from the same side, always on clear days, and almost always the same types of dogs. Most scary of all, the report couldn't explain why some dogs that lived through the fall would try to jump again when brought back to the bridge. The bridge itself seems like a normal place for such dark events. Built in 1895, the Overtoun Bridge goes over a small stream called the Overtoun Burn near the town of Dumbarton in Scotland. The bridge stands 50 feet above the rocky stream below. Its arches were made from rough stone blocks that have turned dark grey over the years. When morning fog rises from the stream below, the bridge looks like it floats between two worlds. The stone turns darker when it rains, which happens a lot in Scotland, making the whole bridge look almost alive. A man named H.E. Milner built the bridge as part of the road to Overtoun House, a big house from the 1800s that sits above the River Clyde. The house belonged to John Campbell White, who later became Baron Overtoun. He was a rich man who owned chemical factories. His money came from making chemicals used to treat leather and dye cloth. White went to church often and people thought he was a good man, but his workers got sick from the chemicals. They got painful sores on their hands and noses that ate through their skin. People called these sores chrome holes. Even though many people thought White was kind and giving, his workers suffered in his factories. The bridge worked fine for many years. Papers from the early 1900s don't mention anything strange about it. Photos from the 1920s and 1930s show families standing on the bridge, their dogs sitting quietly beside them. The first known problem didn't happen until the 1950s. Some people who study this think dogs might have died earlier, but nobody wrote it down because people didn't care as much about pet deaths back then. Papers kept by the Scottish Animal Protection Group say the pattern started around 1951. A farmer named James Morrison said his German Shepherd suddenly ran toward the bridge's east wall and jumped over without warning. The dog lived through the 50-foot fall but was hurt so badly that Morrison had to carry it home. It died 2 days later. Morrison told the vet that the dog had seemed fine before it jumped. It wasn't upset or acting weird. Everyone thought it was just a sad accident that could happen to any dog. Then it happened again 6 months later, and again the next year. By 1955, so many dogs had jumped that locals started telling visitors to keep their pets on short ropes when crossing. A local newspaper ran a small story in 1958. It said 11 dogs had fallen from the bridge in 3 years. The story treated it like something odd, but not serious. The paper talked to a church minister named Douglas MacLeod. He said animals might be able to sense ghosts better than people. His words showed that locals were starting to think something spooky was happening at the bridge. Dogs kept jumping through the 1960s. About 1 dog jumped every few months, always the same way. People who saw it said the dogs would suddenly look alert while crossing the bridge. Their heads would turn fast toward the east side. Then the dogs would pull away from their owners, run straight to the same spot on the wall, and jump over. They always jumped the same way, like they were trying to reach something down below. Kenneth Michael saw this happen in 1967. He was walking with his daughter and their golden retriever Bonnie on a clear September afternoon. Michael later told police that Bonnie had been walking normally when they got to the middle of the bridge. Then, without warning, the dog changed completely. Her ears stood up, her body got stiff, and before Michael could do anything, she pulled the rope from his hand. Bonnie ran straight to the east wall and jumped without stopping. The family found her dead on the rocks below. What upset Michael most was how Bonnie seemed to know what she was doing. She didn't slip or get scared. She jumped on purpose, like she was answering a call only she could hear. Town leaders first said the deaths were just bad luck, mixed with silly stories. Dogs fall from high places all the time, they said. The bridge's walls were only 18 inches high in some spots, which made accidents more likely. But this didn't explain why dogs always jumped from the same spot, why only certain types of dogs jumped, or why it only happened on clear, dry days. By the 1970s, people from other places had heard about the bridge. Tourists started coming just to see what they called the Dog Suicide Bridge. These tourists brought their dogs, which led to more deaths. Between 1970 and 1975, at least 19 dogs jumped. 5 jumped in 1974 alone. The youngest was a 6-month-old puppy. The oldest was a 14-year-old Labrador that had never had any problems before. The types of dogs that jumped showed a clear pattern. Most were dogs with long noses and a good sense of smell. Collies, retrievers, and Labradors made up more than 8 out of every 10 cases. Terriers and Spaniels were most of the rest. Dogs with short noses like bulldogs or pugs never jumped. This fact would later help people trying to solve the mystery. Alice Turner lived nearby and kept notes about every dog that jumped from 1975 to 1995. She wrote everything in notebooks that are now kept at the town library. She listed 54 dogs in those 20 years. Turner wrote down what the weather was like, what time it happened, what kind of dog it was, and what people saw. Her notes showed things that others had missed. More dogs jumped in October and March. Most jumped between 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. Turner also saw that more dogs jumped in years when there were more minks living in the area. Turner's notebooks also had talks with people who saw dogs jump that never made it into official reports. She spoke with Margaret Stevenson, who lost her collie Rex in 1982. Stevenson said Rex had been acting strange for 3 days before he jumped. The dog would stand at her bedroom window at night, growling softly at nothing. He wouldn't eat his favorite treats and jumped at shadows during walks. On the day he died, Rex pulled so hard toward the bridge that Stevenson almost took a different path. She wished she had. The moment they stepped onto the bridge, Rex went crazy, breaking free and running to his death, even though she screamed for him to stop. Turner also talked to George Harrison, a retired teacher who saw 3 different dogs jump between 1978 and 1983. Harrison walked the same route every day and always warned dog owners about the bridge, but many didn't listen. He described one morning when a young couple with a Labrador laughed at his warning. 5 minutes later, he heard their screams. Their dog had jumped. Harrison helped them get down to the rocks, but it was too late. The couple moved away from Dumbarton a month later, unable to deal with passing the bridge every day. Another witness, Ellen MacDonald, told Turner about her neighbor's dog in 1989. The spaniel had crossed the bridge many times before with no problems. Then, one day in October, it jumped. What made this case strange was that the owner, an old man named Robert, claimed he felt something push past him on the bridge just before his dog jumped. He said it felt like a large animal brushing against his legs, but nothing was there. Robert never walked that way again and died 2 years later, still talking about the invisible thing that killed his dog. The bridge became famous for a terrible reason in 1994. On an October morning, a man named Kevin Moy threw his 2-week-old baby from the bridge. Then he tried to jump too. Moy lived, but his baby died. When police asked him why, Moy said he thought his baby was evil. He said the bridge was a door to hell. He felt something very evil when he stepped onto the bridge. Doctors later said Moy was very sick in his mind because he hadn't slept since his baby was born. But what he said about feeling evil on the bridge matched what locals had been saying for years. This awful event made more people pay attention to the bridge. Doctors said Moy might have been affected by the scary stories about the bridge. But this didn't explain why dogs had been jumping for years before anyone called it haunted. Dogs can't understand stories or legends. Whatever made them jump had to be something real that they could sense. After Moy's tragedy, the local newspaper found that 3 other people had tried to hurt themselves at the bridge between 1994 and 2000, though none involved dogs. Each person said they felt something evil or wrong at the bridge. One woman, who didn't want her name used, said she was walking across the bridge in 1997 when she suddenly felt like she needed to jump. She had never felt sad or wanted to hurt herself before. The feeling came from nowhere and was so strong she had to sit down on the bridge and call for help. She never went back and still can't explain what happened. Local police started keeping special records about the bridge after 2000. Officer James Grant, who worked in Dumbarton for 30 years, said he was called to the bridge at least once a month. Usually, it was for a dog that had jumped or tried to jump. But sometimes, people called saying they felt sick or dizzy on the bridge. Grant himself felt uneasy there, especially on foggy mornings when you couldn't see the bottom of the gorge. He retired in 2015, but still tells new officers to be careful at Overtoun Bridge. Dr. David Sands, who studies how animals act, came to the bridge in 2005. He brought his own dog, a border collie named Hendrix. With Hendrix on a rope and watching him closely, Sands walked across the bridge many times. At the spot where dogs usually jumped, Hendrix got excited. He pulled hard toward the edge and whined when Sands wouldn't let him go look. Sands checked under the bridge and found something interesting. The thick bushes on the east side hid homes of animals called minks and pine martens. These animals moved to the area in the 1950s, right when dogs started jumping. These animals make very strong smells, especially when looking for mates. The rocky gap below the bridge made these smells even stronger. The stone walls meant dogs couldn't see what they smelled until they climbed up on the wall. Tests proved mink and pine marten smells were strongest right where dogs jumped. Sands thought dogs with good noses smelled something so strong that their hunting need took over. They followed their noses over the edge without knowing about the drop. This answer made sense to many people, but it didn't explain everything. If smell alone caused it, why didn't dogs jump at other bridges near mink homes? Scotland has lots of bridges with animals living below, but dogs don't jump from them. Why did some dogs that lived through the fall try to jump again? And why did most jumps happen in March and October, not when minks mate? Bob Hill's Jack Russell Terrier Max lived through a jump in 1995. Hill said he was walking across the bridge when Max suddenly froze. The dog's whole body went stiff, his hair stood up, and he made a sound Hill had never heard before. Then Max pulled so hard on the rope that it cut Hill's hand. The dog climbed the wall and jumped before Hill could stop him. Hill found Max at the bottom, badly hurt but alive. After lots of vet visits, Max got better but always limped. 3 months later, Hill made a big mistake. He thought Max needed to face his fear, so he brought him back to the bridge. As soon as Max touched the bridge, he tried to get to the same spot again. Hill left right away. He was sure that whatever made Max jump was more than just a smell. In 2006, a local newspaper talked to 12 families who had lost dogs at the bridge in the past 10 years. Their stories were very similar. 9 of the 12 said their dogs acted strange for days before jumping. The dogs worried, wouldn't eat, or woke up at night. 7 families said their dogs stared at nothing in their homes the night before going to the bridge. One story came from Jennifer Roberts, whose border collie Sam jumped in 2004. Roberts said Sam had been a normal, happy dog for 7 years, but the week before he died, he changed completely. He would stand in the hallway, looking at the ceiling and crying. He wouldn't go into certain rooms and wouldn't eat unless Roberts fed him by hand. The night before he jumped, Sam scratched at the bedroom door until Roberts let him in, then spent all night pressed against her legs, shaking. She was going to take him to the vet the next day, but thought a walk might calm him first. That walk took them to Overtoun Bridge. The newspaper also talked to Peter and Mary Thompson, whose retriever Holly jumped in 2003. The Thompsons lived just half a mile from the bridge and walked past it often. Holly had crossed it dozens of times over her 8 years, but on a March morning, she suddenly ran to the wall and jumped. Peter Thompson was a strong man who worked in construction, but he cried when he talked about it. He said the worst part was the look in Holly's eyes just before she jumped. It wasn't fear or confusion. It was like she recognized something and had to go to it. Mary Thompson still has nightmares about that look. A vet named Dr. Susan Black told the newspaper she had treated 5 dogs that survived jumps from the bridge between 2000 and 2006. All 5 had broken bones, and 3 had damage to their insides. But what interested Dr. Black was that all 5 dogs acted the same way after they got better. They were scared of heights, which was normal, but they also became scared of certain sounds, like low humming noises from machines. One dog would panic when the owner turned on the washing machine. Another would hide when trucks drove by. It was like the fall had made them sensitive to sounds most dogs ignore. People who study ghosts have other ideas about why dogs jump. Some say the bridge sits where special energy lines cross the earth. Others think the sad history of the house and the sick workers created bad energy. People say they've seen a ghost called the White Lady in the house windows. Some blame her for calling dogs to die, but this doesn't explain why only dogs jump, not people or cats. Church minister Colin Miller has collected stories about strange things at the bridge. People say they feel sudden cold spots, like someone is watching them, or they feel very sad or scared at certain spots. Some photos show strange lights, though doubters say it's just water in the air or broken cameras. Miller won't say if he believes in ghosts, but he knows something strange affects people and animals at the bridge. In 2010, John Joyce studied what might confuse dogs at the bridge. He found that the bridge makes weird echoes. Sound from the waterfall bounces off the rocks in ways that might confuse dogs. The bridge also sits where 2 streams meet, which makes very low sounds people can't hear. These sounds can upset animals. Joyce saw that fewer dogs jumped on windy days because wind breaks up these sounds. But Joyce's idea didn't explain everything either. These sounds were probably there since the bridge was built, but dogs only started jumping in the 1950s. If smell and sound together cause the problem, why don't other bridges with the same mix have jumping dogs? The mystery got deeper in 2011 when local history expert Donald McPherson found old papers about the bridge site. Papers from the 1600s called it cursed ground, where farm animals wouldn't eat grass. A diary from 1743, written by a traveling salesman named Thomas Hartley, said farmers stayed away from the gorge because their animals would go mad there. Hartley himself said he felt very strange and sad when crossing the stream where the bridge would later be built. McPherson's research led him to rock studies done in the 1970s. These studies found lots of iron ore under the bridge. This iron creates magnetic problems. Some researchers think these magnetic fields might mess up animals' sense of direction, like how whales and dolphins get confused and beach themselves in places with magnetic problems. The studies also showed that building the bridge required blasting through solid rock. Workers at the time said strange things happened. 3 workers died falling from the bridge while it was being built, all in calm weather. Local newspapers from 1895 said workers felt dizzy and confused while working on certain parts of the bridge, though people thought they were just being silly. McPherson found more details about the construction deaths in old court records. The first worker, Timothy O'Brien, fell on a completely calm day in May 1895. Witnesses said he was working on the east side when he suddenly stood up, walked to the edge, and stepped off. He didn't trip or lose his balance. The second death happened 3 weeks later. Andrew Scott was helping to place stones when other workers saw him drop his tools and walk straight off the bridge. The third worker, David Murray, died in August. He had just told another worker he felt sick and needed to sit down. Then he stood up and jumped. All 3 deaths happened at the same spot where dogs would later jump. The construction company brought in a priest to bless the bridge after the 3rd death. Father Michael O'Connor's blessing ceremony was reported in the local paper. He said he felt a heaviness on the bridge that made it hard to breathe. During the blessing, his holy water container cracked for no reason, spilling water on the stones. Some workers quit after this, saying the bridge was cursed. The company had to pay extra to get new workers to finish the job. In 2012, the Scottish Animal Protection Group paid for a big study to solve the mystery and stop more dogs from jumping. Animal experts, sound experts, and smell experts worked for a year. They wrote a 300-page report. They said dogs jumped because of many things working together: animal smells, weird sounds, tricks of the eye from how the bridge looks, and maybe something in certain dogs' families that makes them more likely to jump. The report found new information about dog families. 3 groups of related border collies made up nearly 20% of all jumps between 1990 and 2010. This suggested something passed down in families, maybe better smell, different brains, or some other trait that gets passed from parent to puppy. The report said to build higher walls, use smells to hide animal scents, and put up warning signs. The town added mesh walls that made them 4 feet high. Signs tell people to keep dogs on short ropes or carry them. These changes helped. Only 3 dogs jumped between 2014 and 2019, much better than before. But the mystery didn't end. In 2019, someone filmed a collie on the bridge. The dog was walking calmly, then stopped, stared at nothing, and started climbing the new mesh wall. The owner pulled it back just in time. The owner, Sarah Williams from Manchester, told reporters there was nothing to see or hear. The dog just stared at empty air. Williams said her dog Pepper had acted strange from the moment they got to Dumbarton. The dog wouldn't get out of the car at first, then walked with its tail down all the way to the bridge. Williams almost went back several times but thought the walk might help Pepper feel better. Instead, the bridge made something wake up in the dog. After this happened, Pepper was scared for weeks, wouldn't go on walks, and hid when they passed any bridge. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, who studies animal senses, came to the bridge in 2020. He thinks animals can sense things people don't understand yet. He tested dogs at the bridge while checking their stress and brain activity. Dogs showed body changes at the jumping spot, even when they couldn't smell or hear anything. Sheldrake thinks dogs might feel energy from all the previous jumps. Other scientists doubt this, but his tests showed real changes in the dogs' bodies at that exact spot, no matter the weather. In 2021, scientists from Edinburgh found strange magnetic fields at the bridge. The fields were strongest where dogs jump. They change in weird ways that don't match normal magnetic patterns. Dr. Forsting, Patricia Hammond thinks iron in the bridge might mix with iron ore below to create magnetic problems. This might confuse animals' sense of direction. This idea makes sense because the bridge runs in a direction that might make magnetic effects stronger. The iron below and metal in the bridge create what Hammond called a perfect storm of magnetic mess. Scientists from Japan came in 2022 with machines that measure electric pulses. Dr. Takeshi Yamamoto found strange readings that came and went with no pattern. He'd seen the same thing where animals act strange in Japan, including a forest where many animals kill themselves. He couldn't explain what causes these pulses or why animals react to them. The team also found that the electric pulses sometimes came with tiny shakes in the bridge. People can't feel these shakes without machines, but animals might feel them through their feet. The shakes didn't match earthquakes and seemed to come from inside the bridge itself. Trail cameras from 2018 show wild animals avoid the area under the bridge. Foxes walk far around it. Deer run away from the gorge like something scared them, even when nothing is there. Birds don't nest in the bridge. Bats don't fly through it even though there are lots of bugs to eat. The newest case happened in October 2023. A border collie named Scout jumped even with a special harness on. His owner, William Fraser, didn't believe the stories. Fraser put a location tracker, heart monitor, and camera on Scout. The machines showed Scout's heart beat 3 times faster before jumping. The camera showed Scout staring at something that wasn't there. Scout lived but got badly hurt. The tracker showed Scout changed from walking straight to following a curved path to the jumping spot. The video showed Scout's eyes getting big before jumping, which happens when animals are very scared or excited. Fraser felt confused at the same spot, but thought it was worry about Scout. Fraser went back with measuring tools. He found strange electric field changes that pulsed in patterns. His compass spun wildly at the exact jumping spot. This only happened in a small area about 3 feet wide, from the bridge floor to 4 feet above the wall. People in town have found ways to live with the bridge's danger. Pet stores sell special Overtoun safe harnesses with extra clips. Dog training classes teach how to control pets near high places. Some people have new pets blessed at church, asking God to protect them from whatever haunts the bridge. Schools teach about the bridge in history class. Many students have family stories about it. Teachers say students often share stories that were never written down, suggesting more dogs jumped than we know about. In 2021, Dumbarton Primary School did a project where students interviewed their grandparents about the bridge. They collected 43 stories about dogs that had jumped or almost jumped. One student, Katie Morrison, learned that her great-grandfather's dog had jumped in 1962 before records were being kept. Another student, Ryan Campbell, found out that his family had owned 3 dogs over 50 years, and they never walked them near the bridge because of stories passed down in the family. The school project also uncovered stories about other animals acting strange near the bridge. Several people remembered cats that would hiss and run away when carried toward the bridge. One farmer said his sheep would never graze in the field next to the bridge, even when other grass was gone. A woman remembered that in the 1970s, a horse being ridden near the bridge suddenly reared up and threw its rider, then ran 3 miles back to its stable. These stories were never reported because people only paid attention to the jumping dogs. Local history teacher, Mrs. Jean Anderson, has been collecting these stories for 20 years. She has over 200 accounts that were never officially recorded. She believes the real number of dogs that jumped could be double what's in the official records. Many families were too upset to report it, or they thought people wouldn't believe them. Some families were embarrassed, thinking they should have controlled their dogs better. Mrs. Anderson keeps all these stories in a special archive at the school, hoping someone will use them to solve the mystery. Vets treat several dogs each year for bridge injuries. Insurance companies won't cover Overtoun Bridge incidents anymore. Houses near the bridge sell for less money because people don't want to walk their dogs past it. Mental health workers in Dumbarton see many dog owners with Overtoun anxiety. Even people who haven't lost pets there get scared walking dogs near the bridge. Some drive miles out of their way to avoid it. Support groups meet each month to help people deal with their losses and fears. Dr. Rachel Green, who runs the support group, says most members have similar experiences. They all describe the same feeling of helplessness when their dog jumped. Many blame themselves, thinking they should have held the leash tighter or taken a different route. Some members have panic attacks when they see other bridges. One woman, Sandra Wilson, moved to England because she couldn't stand living near Overtoun Bridge after her terrier jumped in 2018. The support group has 30 regular members, but Dr. Green thinks many more people suffer alone. She's treated people who won't adopt new dogs because they're scared of losing them at the bridge. One man, Tom Bradley, had nightmares for 2 years after his dog jumped. In the dreams, he could see through his dog's eyes as it fell. He would wake up feeling like he was falling too. It took months of therapy before the nightmares stopped. Dr. Green has noticed that people who lose dogs at the bridge often report strange things happening afterwards. They hear their dead dogs barking at night. They see shadows that look like their pets. One woman swears her dead collie still sleeps at the foot of her bed sometimes. She can feel the weight, but nothing is there. Dr. Green doesn't judge these experiences. She says grief can make people sense things that might or might not be real. What matters is helping them cope with their loss. Research teams from Germany, Canada, and Australia have come to study the bridge. They all agree something unusual happens there that science can't fully explain yet. A 2023 documentary used heat cameras and sound recorders. The heat cameras showed cold spots moving on the bridge. Sound recorders found complex sounds coming from the stone itself. Doubters say this might be equipment problems, but many different studies found the same things. At night, the bridge becomes even stranger. Shadows grow dark under its arches. Water sounds almost make you sleepy. Teenagers dare each other to cross after dark, but few try it. Those who do say they feel watched. Some say they hear dogs barking from below when no dogs are there. The Overtoun Bridge mystery stays unsolved and dangerous. Each study finds more questions, not answers. The bridge reminds us that some places don't follow normal rules, where animal instincts beat staying safe, where buildings, nature, and maybe something else create conditions we can't understand. Glasgow University will study the bridge for 5 years starting in 2024. They'll put in cameras and sensors, test volunteer dogs, and work with experts from around the world. They hope to record what happens during a jump, though fewer jumps make this hard. The university team includes 15 scientists from different fields. Dr. Martin Hughes, who leads the team, says they'll use technology that's never been tried at the bridge before. They have cameras that can see heat patterns, machines that detect tiny vibrations, and computers that will analyze millions of pieces of information. They're even bringing in a special radar that can see through stone to check if there are hidden spaces or cracks in the bridge that might affect sounds or magnetic fields. The team will also study the bridge's effect on people. Volunteers will walk across while wearing monitors that track their heart rate, skin temperature, and brain waves. Dr. Hughes wants to know if humans react to the same things that affect dogs, just in ways we don't notice. Early tests with 5 volunteers showed that all of them had faster heartbeats at the spot where dogs jump, even though they said they felt normal. The most ambitious part of the study involves testing 50 volunteer dogs over the 5 years. Each dog will wear special equipment while crossing the bridge with their owners. The dogs will be tested for everything: their sense of smell, hearing, magnetic sensitivity, and even their family history. Dr. Hughes hopes that with enough information, they can finally find a pattern that explains why some dogs jump and others don't. The study will cost over £2 million, making it the most expensive investigation of the bridge ever conducted. The bridge keeps its secrets under Scottish skies. Dog owners cross carefully, carrying pets or holding ropes tight. They walk fast, don't look at the east wall, and hope their dogs won't sense what calls others to jump. Below, water flows as it has for thousands of years, washing away clues, leaving only questions as deep as the bridge's stone base. What do you think about these events? Have you seen animals do things that made no sense? Tell us in the comments and subscribe for more mysteries. Until next time, keep your pets close and stay away from old bridges on clear Scottish afternoons.